Let all the things that are holding you back, just say no. Not everybody needs to like you. Create better stories. Try to do things that are helpful to other people. Start your day positively with people and things that you love. And try to bring light into the world. Oh, don't be an asshole. How could I forget that? Don't be an asshole. Yeah.
Here's the key to my front door. You got a pillow if you lost yours. You got a seat at my table. You got a home. Here's somebody who believes you. Let truth remind you. You've always got a place to go to. You got a home.
Welcome to The Creator's Journey. I'm your host, Charles Gupton. Fears and obstacles on the journey of creation are things we all face. Every creator who works from the heart faces the same challenges. You're not alone. In each episode, I talk with creative leaders about the mindsets and processes they use to push through their struggles to create and put their work out into the world in order to make a difference. Thanks for joining me on this journey.
Here's the key to my front door. Got a pillow if you lost yours. You got a seat at my table. You got a home. Here's somebody who believes you. Let truth remind you. You've always got a place to go to. You got a home.
Neisha Tweed is a creative strategist at Facebook where she works with global brands and advertising agencies. Over the last 10 years, she has accumulated a huge trunkload of awards for her copywriting and creative work at a number of ad agencies, including mcgarrybowen, Publicis, GlobalHue, and Ogilvy and Mather. She also taught writing at the Miami Ad School for 3 years. As a skilled communicator, creative director, and writer, Neisha is constantly pushing herself and others to be amazing. This perspective spills over into her passions for mentorship as well as diversity and inclusion in the advertising and tech industries. To this end, for the past 5 years, she's written and curated advice for up-and-coming creatives at her blog, Baby Food for Creatives, a guide on how to get in and stay in the advertising business. I first learned of Neisha while watching the 2015 3% Conference Next Creative Leaders panel discussion, which she was a part of. Not only did she have great contributions to offer, she brought it with lots of energy and fun. Welcome, Neisha.
Hi, how are you?
Extremely well and excited to finally get to connect with you.
I'm super excited to be here as well, Charles. Thank you so much for having me.
Great. So tell me, what do you actually do day to day in your work at Facebook with brands and agencies?
That's actually a really hard question because what I do day to day is very different. But on a whole, I work with agencies and actual brands, media companies, and a whole host of people to try to help them to see the creative opportunities that are available on Facebook and Instagram and to create advertising that is built for people that will be delightful and successful for their businesses.
I watched an interview earlier today in which Nicola Mendelsohn, Facebook's vice president for Europe, ventured that in the next 5 years that virtually all of the content viewed on Facebook would be video. Do you have any ruminations on that?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's been really interesting because we've seen over the past, I want to say maybe year, the video viewage has like doubled, and I'm talking into like 100 million hours of videos being watched a day. And I don't even understand how people have time to be consuming that much content, much less watching all those videos. But if you think about the fact that now also we all have cameras in our pockets with our phones, and being a creator is something that everyone has access to. So why not? You know, we went from a time where it was all about writing, and now it's all about sharing and showing, and video is the best way to do that.
So what are some of the mindsets and processes that need to evolve around that change?
Thinking about storytelling in a different way. And I've been having a lot of conversation with this with people. And it's funny because there's my friends as well as coworkers, as well as advertisers, and really trying to help people understand that, you know what, there was a point in time where it felt like a story should have a beginning, middle, and end. There should be a climax, and then, a follow up, and there should be a hero and all this type of stuff. And we're learning that stories don't necessarily need to have this traditional pattern anymore. Like, there could be short 3-second stories, there could be 6-second stories, there could be stories that never really finish, or that never have a main character, and that change is super exciting. But I think that when you're used to thinking about things a certain way, especially when you're used to thinking about a 30-second TV spot, it's hard to open your mind to these different things.
Exactly. So what do you think a story needs now to be compelling or to draw people in?
It just needs some human connection. There needs to be something that another person will look at and be like, huh, it either delights me, or it interests me, or it scares me, or it teaches me something. Like, it really just needs to have something that will connect to another person.
Coming from a writer's background, as you do, what is the impact on wordsmiths that you see as we're going forward?
That's a really good question. A lot of people ask me that because, in the world of emojis, what happens with writers? And I think writers are still storytellers. So it doesn't necessarily matter that you're using words or you're using visuals to tell a story. You still have to know how to put things together. And then on top of all that, you have to know how to sell it. Like, how do you let somebody else know that they should watch the thing that you've created? Or how do you even articulate that to someone else, or say, this is why it's great? So I think that maybe words aren't necessarily as, well, I was going to say as popular now, but I don't know if it's a popularity thing. They're just not used in the same way. But they're still really valuable.
I would hope so. Lisa, I hope some reverence for the English language will carry through along with and beyond emojis.
Yeah.
Live stream.
Yeah.
Live streaming is, again, from my perspective, I'm seeing it pop up a lot on my feed, but I find folks run on for like 3, 4, 5, 10 minutes with a live stream about something that I think could have been done in 30 seconds or maybe a minute. Where do you see the impact of live streaming going in terms of storytelling and the need to, as you said earlier, where are people finding the time to watch that much stuff? So where do you see live streaming going in the context of prepared videos and holding attention?
What's interesting is that we're actually seeing on Facebook, like, people watch live videos way longer than they watch pre-packaged videos. I think part of it is that it's maybe around something that you're a little bit more interested in, or you're a little bit more curious about. I think there's another part of, like, not knowing what's going to happen next. That's exciting. And then there's, of course, being part of the conversation. So I don't know if you've actually, like, participated in a Facebook Live video, but you can ask questions, you can comment, you can, write hearts and, like, use those little emojis and have hearts or wow faces and all this type of stuff. Last night, I watched a friend of mine and his wife discover their old school Nintendo. And I mean, like, old school, the very first Nintendo with Duck Hunt. They were moving, so they found it.
That's funny.
It was hilarious. They found it, and so I went through the process of them plugging it in and trying to see if it was going to work. And I was as invested in it as if I was there in that room with them, to them then playing the first level again and trying to remember how do things work. And me and several other people are typing in, like, oh, you have to hit this block or jump over there. Don't forget the secret level. And we're having this whole conversation with people I've never met before, watching this activity in a room that I've never been in before. And it took me a lot to pull myself away. I'll be honest, like, I probably would have watched it for another half hour had I not had things to do.
That's amazing.
So there's just something so engaging and amazing about live video.
I have not yet participated in any kind of live streaming, and I think it's my own fear at this point of not being prepared. And I've done improv comedy, and I'll do things in front of people, but I think once it's recorded for posterity. I'm just a lot more afraid of it.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out how to get over it, how to get over myself in that capacity. So that's funny.
There's a gift and a curse in not being able to edit. The gift is that it is what it is. Like, this is real life, and it's one of the realest and most authentic interactions you can have with somebody on social media. Because if you think about it, even on Messenger, which is a real-time conversation, you could delete. You know what I mean? You can edit. But on live video, this is it. This is me. This is real. And I think that's something that's really exciting, and it's really beautiful. And there's so much opportunity for exploration and, like, just wanting to be part of something that the internet is making happen. I think that's amazing.
Well, what comes to mind is I think about, some of the world tragedies that are going on now. And it's amazing to me that people have the wherewithal, the mindset to go on social media and report.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's been several things that have happened around the world in the last several months where our information is coming through social media, but people are now using these tools to actually go live with them there, which is amazing, and it's frightening, I guess, to be in that kind of keeping it real moment. So that's any thoughts you have in that area, jump into it. But that just occurred to me how much it's being used now in real life.
I think that, like I said, between the phone and the phone giving you so much more power to create, and then social media giving you power to share, you are going to see more of that. You are going to see more of people finding, like, and I mean, it's so interesting because it's like different stuff where I would think, why would anybody want to watch that? And I think if my friend called me and said, hey, come over, we found our old Nintendo, I would have been like, no, I have things to do. So there's something there's something different about the way that it's happening that makes it a little bit more exciting, and the reach that you can get, and the community that you can create around sharing information. That's really cool. And I think being able to use it to share news is absolutely a gift. Just think about just not being able to be someplace and hearing it from CNN, or hearing it, like seeing video that could have been edited, or, being live on the scene and having it happen right in front of you. It's amazing. I keep saying amazing, but like it's just, I feel, wow.
It is amazing.
So excited to be alive right now.
And you work in it day in and day out, and yes, you've it's still amazing to you. Well, back to your earlier comment about Nintendo, if you, rather than having to get dressed and whatever form of transportation, whether you're in the city or you jump in the car and go to someone's house, instead you get to curl up in your pajamas with a glass of wine, next to your husband with headphones in bed if you want, and engage in this. But then you get to cut it off and go, I'm still in bed and I can go to sleep instead of having to come home. And so it's a way of being there without having to be there.
Exactly. You can have it all.
And that's what we all want. So let me jump.
Yeah.
Let me jump back into a little bit more of Neisha. Who are three people who've had the greatest influence in your life? And in what ways did they impact you most deeply?
Ooh, that is an amazing question. Three people who've had the greatest influence in my life. Wow. Number one, I would have to say my grandmother. I spent a lot of my childhood with her. I feel like she half raised me, and she was always about feeding people. Like, that was just so important for her. Like, she shared love through food, and she actually had said one time, if you only have $1 left, use it to buy something to eat. And there's just something about, now that I'm older, about eating and sharing food with people, and the joy and healing and connection, the communion that comes from either eating with other people or feeding other people or cooking for other people, that just, I think it's one of my favorite things ever in life. So I'm grateful to her for that.
Yes, it is. I like her already.
You can win anybody over with food, right?
That's right. I love it.
Well, I have another one, funny enough, and I don't think that had you asked me this question ahead of time, I would have had this answer. And I'm going to say it and see where it goes. Nina Simone. Nina Simone is my all-time favorite artist ever. And when I learned about her, I was in college and I did all this research afterwards, and I read like her biography and her autobiography, and I swear to God that she died twice, because I don't know if I realized at the time that she was alive. So then when she died, it was pretty heartbreaking for me. But her music and her persona and her just desire to be herself as often and as openly and as fully as she saw fit was something that has inspired me and something that I've tried to emulate in my life. The way that then she also took her art and the thing that was special about her, which was her musical ability, her piano and singing, and used that as part of the to give voice to the Black lives and the civil rights movement, and to empower young people with songs like Young, Gifted, and Black, and to share the pain that she felt around, different things that were happening at that time. That I feel like is so beautiful. You don't have many artists these days that kind of take their platform and use that for good or for social justice or anything. You know what I mean? And
Exactly.
I really can admire her for that.
Yeah. Oh, that's sweet. That's great.
She was so strong. Like her, yeah, everything about her voice was so strong. And I love the fact that in concerts, when people were talking, she would stop performing until they stopped talking, or she'd ask them to leave. I wish I was that. I could be like that. You know what I mean? I wish I could be in meetings and just be like, listen, put your phone away or put your computer down, because what I have to say is important, and I want you to listen to me, and I want you to be present. I want to have that level of, I don't even know, balls. I want that.
Well, Amy Cuddy would call it presence. It's a word you used as well. You have the presence of body, but also the presence of mind, to have the confidence to not speak, actually, but just to pause, and the power of the pause, just to wait until all attention comes back.
Yeah, I think I have to find more important things to say or songs to sing, but I I hope one day I can get there.
Well, it sounds like it's something you're growing into. From my perspective, you are already very strong, very confident, have a very strong presence. Has there ever been a time in your life where you felt like you were a misfit?
Every day, Charles. Every day.
In what ways? In what ways? How can you feel like you're a misfit in this world?
Because I'm me. I'm so different, and I guess like everybody can say that. You know what I mean? But I'm a troublemaker. I'm a rebel. I like to ask a lot of questions. I like to challenge the status quo. And I like to speak up. I realize that.
That's why I knew I'd like to talk with you.
Yeah, I was always a troublemaker. I was always very, well, why, mommy? And, at one point in time in high school, I called her by her first name because she called my grandmother by her first name, my dad's mom. And I was like, well, if you're going to call her Annie Tweed, I'm going to call you Sandra Tweed. And she was just like, you know what? Okay, Neisha. And now, I feel like I'm married, and my husband often says, you know what? Okay, Neisha. And I'm a little headstrong, and I'm a little bit of an explorer, and I like to just question things and push things and break boundaries.
When we were talking before, a couple of weeks ago, you mentioned that you were influenced by a talk that Gretchen Rubin had done, and reading her book Better Than Before. Where did you find yourself in the 4 tendencies that she talks about, and how did that impact you?
I think that I am an upholder, right? So the 4 of them are upholders, questioners, rebels, and obligers. I'm definitely not an obliger. I I'm not one of those people that will do something just because other people want me to do it, or I need to have like that outward kind of thing. I want to do things because I want to do it, and because I think it's the right thing. Um, but I do question things a little bit. You know what? I'm gonna have to take the quiz because I'm sure there's some percentage of where I am in different scenarios. Because I feel like someone else will tell you that I'm a rebel, but I'm really not.
That's funny.
Somebody said to me one time that I like to follow the rules that I think are right, and I think that's it. I like to follow the rules that I think are right. So if I think that some of the rules don't make sense, then I'm not going to do it, and you can't make me. But if I think that it's okay, then I'm not even going to question it.
That sounds like a questioner to me.
Yes.
That in what I remember of reading, because that's a lot of what I'm told that I do as well. That if I understand and know why,
Yeah.
I've got no problem going there. But until I know why we're going, I can't budge.
No, you're right. That I just read it again, and that is exactly what a questioner is. So there we go. I'm a questioner.
Saved you time in the quiz later. So what are some of the fears you're struggling with right now, and how do they show up in your life?
There's a lot of fears, you know what, to be honest, and that's something I'm working on. I'm working on not having as many fears, but not giving my fears as much energy as I do sometimes, because they're going to be there. You know what I mean? It's like pollen. It's going to be there, but you can't like focus on the fact that, oh my God, I might be breathing in pollen. Like you just take a Claritin and keep it going. So one of the fears that I consistently, that I'm not going to finish everything that I want to do. And I think that's a fear of me realizing that I'm human sometimes, and that I have to sleep, and I'm a wife, and I have to spend time with my husband, and I'm a daughter and a sister, and I have to do all these other things, because my to-do list is just like epic. And I always feel kind of like, oh my gosh, like what if I don't finish all these things? And I think every day I learn that that's okay. You're never going to finish it.
Do you find that those struggles create obstacles to creating some of the contributions that you want to be known for?
Not even that I want to be known for. I think there's a lot of things I do because I think it can make things better. So whether it could make the world better, it could make you better, it could make Facebook better, it could make my client better, whatever it is. I don't do anything if I don't think it has a purpose. So not being able to do it, I feel like there's a loss. But I think what I need to kind of come to terms with is just because I don't do it today doesn't mean it's never going to get done. Or just because it's not perfect doesn't mean it's not good enough.
Absolutely.
I'm a recovering perfectionist.
There you go. That's what I was going for.
Yeah, I'm a mess of a recovering perfectionist, and I have to always remind myself that it's okay if it's not perfect, and done is better than perfect, and nobody is holding me to the same standard that I'm holding myself. So I need to kind of look outside of myself more often.
So in that process of perfectionism, where do you see that creeping into some of your daily processes, and what are you learning to let go of as you learn or become more aware of some of those tendencies?
Simple things like needing to write a well-crafted email. That's one of the things that I'm currently letting go, and it is the best. Oh my God. It is so freeing to be able to just write back and say ABC, and then like under it, just write, pardon my brevity. And that's it. Like not feeling like I need to say, hi, Charles, great to hear from you. Thanks for your input on this. Here are 3 points around, in my response. Let me know if you want to talk more. Happy to jump on the call. Sincerely, Neisha. Nope. Charles, ABC. Pardon my brevity. Send. Done. Next. It's the best.
I've not learned that yet. I am struggling. It's part of Southern culture still.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? And as a woman, you feel like you need to be like you can't come off bossy or bitchy. And um, you know what? Let that go. Just let that go. Because at the end of the day, you know what I want to come off as? Efficient. I want to come off as productive. And sometimes trying to be precious and trying to be thoughtful and overly verbose is opposite of those two things.
Right. Well, I'm still afraid of coming across as bitchy, so I've got to get over it.
Let it go, Charles.
Let it go. Let it go.
Not everybody's gonna like you. Yeah.
Still struggling with it. So what are some words of advice that you have to offer to people who are coming into your profession to get them on the right track for success?
My number one thing is always to tell people don't be an asshole. There's just way too many out there, and it's literally the opposite way of how to be successful. And I think sometimes you feel like, well, I need to be hard, or I need to be like straightforward, or I need to do, you know what I mean? Like I can't be too nice, otherwise people are going to take advantage of me. Or, I need to be like tough because it's business. And you get more flies with honey. And the other day I said that to somebody and they were like, well, why do I want flies?
It's
Like,
an
you know what?
expression.
We need to find a
That's
new
right.
saying. Um, yeah, I was like, that one's not good anymore. But you get more followers, I
With
guess,
honey.
with honey. Yeah. But no, just there's just no need to be like super cutthroat. Like we can all be successful. I think there's enough success out there that we can all share in it. And we get more done sometimes when we're on the same side than when we're fighting against each other. So I always tell people like don't be an asshole. Like don't have an ego. Don't be a gossiper. Don't be mean. Just be good to people, and everything in the world can come to you.
It's funny as I talk with people how frequently the soft skills rather than the college or education or course skills are more important. How to get along with people is more important than the technical
Oh,
again and again and again.
100. Yeah, 100%. And you know what too though, like because I don't want to like discount the non soft skills because like I don't think that I am the best at socializing sometimes, especially like with my coworkers. I definitely think that I could do a lot better with that, but I am very good at my job and no one can ever deny that. So I do think that there needs to be that balance, but it just makes it easier that I'm not like a horrible person to be stuck with in an 8 o'clock meeting.
Well, part of the efficiency of getting things done is the social lubrication of being somebody easy to work with that people want to work
For
with.
sure.
And again, it seems like those who want to be back to the earlier question or conversation is we want to be efficient with people, but people are often not efficient in my experience. And that if we are not easy to get along with, or we can't seem to bridge that chasm, then it becomes even more inefficient. So social skills seem to help bridge that chasm of
Yep.
misunderstanding or communication to go ahead and get things done. So it's more efficient to be nice than it is, or at least a decent human being, than it is to be hard to get along with, in my experience.
Agreed. No, yeah, totally agreed. It does make things a lot easier, and it does allow you, I think, too, a little bit more grace to make mistakes, and I think making mistakes is actually really important. And I think that we've been put in a culture that's now very much afraid to mess up, in a lot of ways. And it's so interesting because I feel like actually in the age of social media, there is a little bit more space to mess up, but when it comes to work, there's not. But I think that's really important. I think it's really important for you to do dumb stuff. I think it's important for you to fail and fail big, and to fall down because that's how you learn. And the view from the bottom is probably the most important view that will help you get to the top, you know? So I think that when you're a good person and when you're, you know, just easy to get along with, or, you know, just like nice, decent, respectable, whatever it is, when you mess up, people definitely want to help you get back up.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And I think so that helps a lot too. If you were an asshole and you fell down, people would just walk over you and keep it moving.
Be happy you're down there.
Yeah, exactly. Or kick you while you're down. You never know.
There you go. In the 10 years that you've been in the advertising field, what are some of the biggest changes that you've seen to date from where you stand today? You know, what are some of the misconceptions that people coming in now have based on kind of where things have come and where they're going?
The misconception is that it is super glamorous and super fun all the time. And I think that when I see young people come in, especially like when I was creative director, I was dealing with like juniors, and they would get upset about like, well, this isn't a fun project, or, you know, this is boring, or why do I have to do these banners or whatever it is, and not understanding that, you know, there's things that pay the bills. There's stuff that's just like foundation stuff. There's stuff that you just have to learn how to do in order to get to the next level. And there is a little bit of, you know, paying your dues and putting in the work and working your way up, proving yourself and all that. So I think knowing and seeing that it's not all glamorous, it's not all exciting, it's not all like what you see on TV, I think, or that you hear like some of the veterans talk about, where like the heyday of advertising.
Right.
It's not like that. Not a lot of 3 martini lunches anymore.
No, it doesn't seem like anybody that I know that's in the business hardly even has time for lunch anymore.
Yeah.
In my observation, people have got their nose down and they're cranking.
Yeah, like it was it would be a successful day for me if I were at least able to take half an hour and like I'd still be on my computer but have lunch but not do work. Like if I was able to do that, and I would trick myself because I'd be like, oh, I want to go outside for lunch. You know, I want to make myself have a lunch hour. And then it became, okay, a half hour. And then it was like, well, I can't go outside. So maybe I'll just go sit in another room instead of at my desk. And, you know, you start making all these negotiations, unfortunately. So yeah, it's a lot of work. But when it's great, it's really great. It's like having kids, but maybe not as rewarding. So maybe it's not like having kids. I was kidding.
So talk a little bit about what is great. What when you say it's great, what is great? Where are those peaks of joy and fulfillment and impact that you get to see?
Yeah.
That really make it worthwhile for you?
When you see the thing that you've created come to life. Like when you actually, like whether it's a TV spot, whether it's a social campaign, whether like I worked on City Bike. When I saw those bikes on the road, I almost lost it. Like it was the best thing. And I remember when I want to say that Bruce Willis rode one of the City Bikes on Letterman or something like that. Like my entire team almost, you know, erupted the next day because it was just like, yo, you know, we worked on this and you're seeing this all around the city, and it had such an amazing impact on the city and on people and on the health. And you know what I mean? Like, so to be able to do something like that can affect so many people on such a broad scale is the best. And then to work with amazing people to make that happen, also the best.
We'll go a little bit. Those
I think are the highlights. It's the people that you work with. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, go back into, if you will, and tell a story or two about businesses that you witnessed being transformed by the understanding of their brand story on a deeper level. So I remember the City Bike campaign, I went through and looked at that on your site, and that seemed to be an area where where you or the team drew them into a place of a deeper story and how to get that story out there and turn the image of the bank around in some ways, if I remember correctly. So I was trying to get you just if there were a couple of either that or some other stories where you saw a business being transformed by the work of understanding their personal brand story and how to tell it out into the public in a way.
Yeah, I think that's actually the best example, and I think that was the one of the awards that we were able to win was around the transformation and stuff like that, because Citi as a bank had a pretty bad image after the mortgage crisis and stuff like that, and Citi had always been a New York bank and, local to New York as well. So I thought that it was actually really perfect for them to do Citi Bike and to be the official corporate sponsor. And the way that we approached the work, one of the things I loved about working on it wasn't about how can we get more Citi in there, and how can we make this about the bank, and how can we sell people credit cards or anything like that. It was like, how can we make sure that this is good for people? How can we make sure that this is right for New York and this is good for that it's going to make sense? You know what I mean? And that kind of people first mentality is, I think, what is missing sometimes in advertising. And I think that's what makes really great, thoughtful, and successful work. So it was great because I think also it helps that Citi, and as a name, sounds like a city, and there's New York City. So there's just so many ways on so many levels that it was able to just make so much sense and work for the brand as well as, I think, work for New York.
Well, in several conversations with you, it seems like impact is an important part of who you are and your part in that. What does it mean for you to be a part of something that's bigger than you?
Like, why else am I here if not to be a part of something bigger? Because my purpose is to have impact on things. It is to change things and to make things better and anything better, to make people better, to make the world better, to make the city better. You know what I mean? Like, whatever it is, I'm moving out of my apartment and I'm leaving a ceiling fan and a new bathroom hanger thing. And you know what? I said I want to leave this apartment better than when I got here. So that's my contribution to the apartment. And I always, I guess, whether consciously or unconsciously, think about what is my contribution to the world and to everything around me. So I guess it's everything, I guess that's what it is to me. It's everything to me.
Yeah, one of my thoughts throughout the years has been, can you leave each day better than you started it? Whether it's self-improvement or helping, encouraging someone else, is how can each day, your footprint on that day, leave things better?
I love that.
It does mean a lot to me.
I absolutely love that. Well, I mean, clearly you do care about like the bigness of things and sharing and impact if you're doing this this podcast, like I think this is not something that you have to do. And so the fact that you're doing that and you're sharing different people's stories and taking a lot of time to do it well is really admirable as well.
Well, it's a pleasure. I get to talk with great people, and the encouragement that comes from that just by having these conversations wouldn't happen if there wasn't the excuse or the opportunity to be recording it. So the pleasure is largely mine. So what is something that you believe to the core of your being to be true that many other people probably, or at least may not, agree with you on?
Oh, that's a really good question. You know what? I had this conversation with my friend yesterday, and I still feel it. Women are the best. I think women are the best. I think women are the smartest and most evolved and skilled and just the best humans. And
you've got no argument from me, let me tell you.
I mean, I'm slightly biased, just a little bit, but the fact that we could carry and bring life into this world already kind of, puts women up high. But the things that I have seen, my mother, my aunts, just women I work with, working mothers, single mothers, just any woman that puts it in her head that she wants to do something, it's amazing. Amazing. There is no lack of inspiration when you can look at the things that women are able to accomplish. And, I was reading this super funny series of tweets this young man wrote recently, who his girlfriend, pretty young guy, I guess he's in his 20s, his girlfriend recently moved in with him, and he was talking about how it has changed his life, and down to like how he learned how to fold a fitted sheet. And it was hilarious what he was saying, but it was like, yo, it's true. A woman will do that. A woman will change everything and make everything better. And I'm sure there's some people that might not see the magic, but I see it and I believe in it.
I do, and I agree with you. I had a friend many years ago, had two sons, and I can't remember the context we were in, but the boys were being rambunctious. They were boys. And he said, looked at me and he said, were it not for my wife, were it not for women and their impact on us, we'd be nothing but barbarians.
That is the truth. That is the truth.
And I just about doubled over.
I totally see that. I totally see that.
Yeah. So talk with me about your daily routine. What are some practices that keep you balanced and creatively refreshed so you can be most productive in your work?
My daily routine, funny enough, there's two things that are a little bit sappy, but they are really important to me. One is every morning before we leave the house, my husband and I kiss each other in the elevator. Like that is like we call it elevator kisses, and that is what I do, and I look forward to it. And the days that we don't leave the house together, I feel sad in the elevator. I miss that.
Good.
So there's that, and then you like to hear that. And then there's two girlfriends of mine from, college, post-college that I'm in an infinite, endless chat with. And every morning we say good morning to each other. And sometimes we, are carrying on a conversation. Sometimes it's just good morning and, be sunshine in the world, or it's good morning, shake it off, or good morning, I love you. And that is, I think, the best way to start the day, with just positive energy from people that you care about. It always reminds me, it makes me excited to be alive and reminds me that there's so much goodness out there. Other routines, I read the Skim every morning on the train. So I get my little news fix before I get to work, which is always really great because whenever I have people that I don't know how to start a conversation with, it's super easy to, talk about something that's happening in the news or in the world, or even with my husband, I can have conversations about sports that I usually wouldn't be able to. Yeah, I can't think of anything else much that I do like every single day.
Good. Well, it's interesting, again, as I talk with folks, the different processes that people have to energize themselves and, just trying to keep their energy up day after day after day, that it seems like daily habits or routines are ways of keeping that balance. So,
yep.
Well, if you had the resources to drill down into and make a difference in just one particular area, what would you focus on?
Diversity and inclusion. I am super duper passionate about that. I think, for one, being an immigrant and growing up in a country, like I grew up in the Caribbean, and everybody there is, not everybody, but most people there are Black. So I don't think that I was very aware of my Blackness until I moved to America. And then I became aware of my otherness. I feel super passionately about it. And like when you look at the tech industry, the advertising industry, entertainment industry, there's such a lack of diverse faces and voices and stories, which is crazy because the country in and of itself is by 50-50, it's going to be majority people of multicultural background. That's something I'm really passionate about, and ending oppression, raising self-esteem, and in any way helping people feel better about themselves and feel better about other people, and all of us to be able to get along and
that would help.
Live.
That would save a lot of calories, emotional calories.
Yeah. I mean, it's on so many levels though, because, from a business standpoint, there's just so many things, you know what I mean? Like, you want diverse perspectives in your office place, especially if you are creative. You want people that have different points of views, because that's what creativity is. And that's how you come up with ideas. There's no new things under the sun, but there's new ways to put those things together. And in order to get to that point, you need new, different people. Otherwise, you'll just keep putting things together in the same way.
Absolutely.
That's something I'm really passionate about. I do a lot of work at work and outside of work in organizations and stuff to really help encourage diversity and support inclusion in places.
That's good. Good stuff. I want to jump back with, I guess, another thought on process again. Some people are really focused on processes alone without regard for the outcome, and others really don't care how you get there, only that the results thereafter get accomplished. Where do you find yourself on a scale of being driven by process versus results?
Yeah, that's such a good question because I am learning currently in my current role, past like almost a year now, I've been at Facebook to let go of process. So being a Virgo, I need process and I need a A, B, C, and it doesn't need to be in that order, but I need to know that things are going to happen in a certain order or that there is some sort of order at least. And I'm learning now that there's so many different ways to get things done, and there's no one way, there's no best way, and as long as you arrive where you need to arrive at the end of the day, then you're good. And it's actually like super freeing for me as an individual. And it's also just amazing for me as an employee because I literally get, Neisha, we need you to do A, B, C, and that's it. Figure it out, go do it. And I love that. It's just, as long as it gets done, it gets done. And it's going to get done well. So nobody stresses me. I don't stress anybody else. And I'm learning to kind of even allow my husband to exist in a space where, you know what, he's gonna do the dishes eventually, and they're gonna be done well. So I should not fuss about whether he does the glasses first or whether he leaves them on the counter for half on a day before he gets to it. So. I think results matter way more than process.
That's funny. That's funny. Well, I've always been a results-driven person, but the last few years I've really been focusing a lot on my need to honor processes because all I cared about was getting things done. So I tended to run roughshod sometimes over people or over things to get it done. Mm-hmm. And back to the power of women is that my wife Linda and I have entirely different ways of doing things. But what I have learned, and we both learned, is that we virtually always have the same endpoint in mind.
Yep.
But we have entirely different ways of getting there. And now that we've honored that and we realize it, we just, as soon as we have any kind of disagreement on how something's being done, just stop and go, what is our end result in mind that we want to get to? And then we just relax and drop a lot of the stuff away and go, oh, what is the best way of doing it? How do we work together to get it done? And that's just released so much frustration.
Oh my God, yes.
It takes a while sometimes to roll into that, but yeah, it's critical.
Yeah, it's really helpful.
So back to some influences on you. Are there any books that have had an impact on you or affected your thinking in some way that you'd like to talk about or share?
Yeah. The Four Agreements. I read that some years ago. Somebody actually gave it to me, and it took me almost 2 years to read it. And one day I was going to DC, and every time I travel, I pack a book with me, whether or not I'm going to read it. But it's I think that I want to be that person that reads books on planes and trains and stuff like that. I can't promise you that I am that person, but every single time I go on a trip, I take a book. And so I took the Four Agreements with me, and this bus ride to DC was not fun at all. And so I started reading it. And I'll tell you the truth, by the time I got to my friend's house, I hugged her and then went to her room because I needed to finish the book. Like, I couldn't stop. It was so good. But
that's funny. That's funny.
That, I think, was super duper helpful for me as an individual and just even as a recovering perfectionist. I think back then I was a perfectionist. This was part of my recovery process. this always do your best is the fourth agreement. And that one is really great because one of the things that he talks about in the book is that your best isn't going to be the same every day.
That's right.
So, like your best when you're sick is going to be very different to your best when, you went to the gym and you ate the best breakfast. You know what I mean?
I do.
So that I think helped me not be so hard on myself sometimes and not push myself too much sometimes. So that agreement, life-changing, super duper life-changing. Every day I tell myself, do your best. And sometimes this is your best and that's it. That's fine. Let it go. And then of course, don't take anything personally. That's the second agreement. You living in New York, you kind of need that. And even down to people bumping into you, I don't even think about it that people bump into me. I think that they had someplace to go. They're not paying attention. They might be having a bad day. Like, I just don't take that on to be something like, well, they didn't like me or, whatever it is. And you think about it from a personal standpoint that if you go to work. I remember I had a coworker one time who came to work and by around 3 p.m, I started talking to him and he was mad at me. And I'm like, oh my God, what happened? And he was fuming and I'm like, what happened? And he was like, well, when I came in this morning, you didn't talk to me. So I thought you were mad at me.
Oh
yeah,
my
and
gosh.
I was like,
word.
nope. I was definitely just focused because I had this deadline for 3 o'clock. So I didn't even I don't even know if I realized when you came in, or it never occurred to me that I should stop and say hello, whatever. But he really felt so hurt that I didn't speak to him, that he assumed then that there was something wrong, and he took it very personally. And I can see the spiral that he went down, where it's just was it this, was it that? And then I'm sure from that point, everything I did or didn't do made him feel like it was an affront.
Only amplified.
Yeah. So I think the book super helps me with that, because I really check myself before I start going down those spirals, or I start even thinking well, so-and-so doesn't like me, or they, you know what I mean? Just putting other people's thoughts in my mind, or making up stories and stuff like that. I want to yell it on the street and tell people, just don't take things personally. Let it go.
Yeah, it's two thoughts come to mind. I think getting bumped into in New York is, or people walking in New York is not unlike driving anywhere else, is that you can't take it personally. I mean, for a long time, I was not a happy driver. Somebody cut me off and I was like, it was all personal. And again, similar to New York, somebody bumps into you or cuts in front of you because they're moving up the sidewalk. It's absolutely not personal. It's them, not you. And if somebody cuts me off in traffic, or anyone off in traffic, they're not cutting me off.
Yeah.
They don't even know me. They don't even see me.
They don't even know you. Yeah.
No. And we allow them to ruin the rest of our day by the narrative going on in our mind. As your coworkers you talked about, we let our own narratives completely unwind our day. And it's in our heads. It's not reality.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't let that own you. I actually now make up ridiculous narratives. So it's to the point if somebody bumps into me, I think, oh my gosh, they must be rushing home to go and get their kid because, all of this other stuff is happening. And then I'm just like, oh my God, I hope they're okay. It's just where did that come from?
That's okay.
But that's literally when people are speeding in traffic, I'm like, oh my gosh, they probably just have to rush home because their grandmother just called and they have to pick her up. Otherwise, she's going to miss choir practice. And I'm like, I hope she makes it. But just reframing the narrative makes it not a negative thing, makes it not a personal thing. And you start seeing other people as people and stop making everything a drama about yourself.
Well, it's reframing. And what you just said, I'm laughing because I think we're going to make up stories anyway. We might as well reframe it and make it up in such a way that it works for us and that we feel good, rather than making up a narrative that makes us feel awful.
Yeah.
And that's what so many people do every day. So, big hat tip to you.
Yeah. Thank you.
If there's a great If there's a great takeaway lesson today, that was it.
Make up good stories. Or at least better stories.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Better stories. Well, that leads me to, what do you want to be remembered for?
What do I want to be remembered for? I want to be remembered for...
Write better stories. So...
Yeah. That's actually a good one. Yeah. Just turning things around and trying to be positive when I think sometimes it's hard to do that. Or you can't find the space to do it, finding a way to be positive. I have a bad habit sometimes of like being like, well, at least this, or, well, this is a good thing. And sometimes it's misplaced because, I should just be like, oh no, this actually really sucks, guys. But yeah, I hope to be remembered as somebody that tried to be positive and tried to be helpful and to bring light where there wasn't any, or shine more light where there was some.
We get along well together. Thank you.
I can tell.
Yeah. Is there someone you know who's outside the spotlight, but they're doing something that's having an impact that the world should know about?
Yes. My friend Natalie Thomas is a licensed therapist, and she moved last year from Florida, where she had lived her entire life, where she had bought a house and had just been completely settled, and moved to Columbus, Ohio, never having experienced winter before in her life, moved to Columbus, Ohio to open a center for teens, specializing with like LGBTQ youth and foster kids, and really helping them with behavior. How can I say this word? Behavioral health and support, and like finding foster parents and giving them a place where they could feel safe and express themselves. And I really admire her for being so selfless and for doing something so amazing to help other people, and it's going to have such an impact on their lives. She works for the National Youth Advocate Program, I should say that. And so her center either just opened or is going to open very soon. And, that's just an amazing thing to do. I don't know if I don't know if I could have left everything that I've ever known and committed to an Ohio winter in order to start something so new yet so wonderful. So
that's wonderful.
Kudos to her. I'm grateful to know her.
Good. Well, we will put her information in the show notes so that people can link to it and find that.
Yeah, and donate.
I don't know if you've got anything left in you, but is there one thought that you'd like to leave with listeners that you believe could make a difference in their lives?
Just maybe recapping a couple things that I've said. Not everybody needs to like you. Not everybody's going to like you. Let it go and let everything go. Let all the things that are holding you back, just say no. Be like Nina Simone. Create better stories. Try to do things that are helpful to other people. Start your day positively with people and things that you love. And try to bring light into the world. That's it.
Good stuff.
Oh, don't be an asshole. How could I forget that? Don't be an asshole.
Number one.
Yeah.
Oh. If folks want to connect with you, what places are best?
LinkedIn, probably. Neisha Tweed. Or Twitter, Neisha Baby. NeishaBabee.
That's good.
Or Baby Food for Creatives. It's my blog.
Neisha, thank you. It has been an honor and a privilege. I've had fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. I appreciate you having me. And I really, really appreciate the questions you asked. Like you literally stumped me a couple times, and I feel like this was a little bit of a therapy session because I discovered things about myself, and so I'm really grateful for that. Thank you. We'll do this again next week for an hour.
It would be my pleasure. I'll hop on a plane, run up to New York, and we'll sit down and have coffee. My pleasure. Thank you.
Oh, awesome. Well, you have a great day. Thank you for listening, everyone, and be well.
Thanks for listening to The Creator's Journey. If you enjoyed our theme music, the name of the song is You've Got a Home by Krista Wells. The Creator's Journey is published the first and third Sundays of each month, except for July and December. If you enjoyed the show, I would appreciate having you go to iTunes and subscribe. While you're there, if you give us a favorable rating and review, it'll make a huge difference in helping a newcomer easily find it. You can find links to today's guests, the people and books we talked about, and email me with your wonderful thoughts, all at thecreatorsjourney.com. I want to thank Yodelist for sponsoring this episode of The Creator's Journey. Yodelist is an interactive marketing platform for people in the creative world. With a vetted database of contacts from across the industry, Yodelist helps photographers, illustrators, creative directors, designers, producers, stylists, and many others to locate potential clients and gives them the tools to make those connections happen. If you want to find out how Yodelist helps creative people find one another for work, just go to yodelist.com. Today's podcast is also brought to you by audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/TCJ. There are over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Here's a short excerpt from the audiobook, Better Than Before, both written and read by the author, Gretchen Rubin. I hope you enjoy it.
It is a profoundly erroneous truism that we should cultivate the habit of thinking of what we are doing. The precise opposite is the case. Civilization advances by extending the number of operations we can perform without thinking about them. Alfred North Whitehead, An Introduction to Mathematics. For as long as I can remember, one of my favorite features in any book, magazine, play, or TV show has been the before and after. Whenever I read those words, I'm hooked. The thought of a transformation, any kind of transformation, thrills me. Whether the change is as important as quitting smoking or as trivial as reorganizing a desk, I love to read about how and why someone made that change. Before and after caught my imagination, and it also provoked my curiosity. Sometimes people can make dramatic changes, but more often, they can't. Why or why not? As a writer, my great interest is human nature, and in particular, the subject of happiness. A few years ago, I noticed a pattern. When people told me about a before and after change they made that boosted their happiness, they often pointed to the formation of a crucial habit. And when they were unhappy about a change they'd failed to make, that too often related to a habit. Then one day, when I was having lunch with an old friend, she said something that turned my casual interest in habits into a full-time preoccupation. After we'd looked at our menus, she remarked, "I want to get myself in the habit of exercise, but I can't, and it really bothers me." Then, in a brief observation that would absorb me for a long time to come, she added, "The weird thing is that in high school, I was on the track team, and I never missed track practice, but I can't go running now. Why?" "Why?" I echoed, as I mentally flipped through my index cards of happiness research to find some relevant insight or useful explanation. Nothing. Our conversation shifted to other topics, but as the days passed, I couldn't get this exchange out of my mind. Same person, same activity, different habit. Why? Why had she been able to exercise faithfully in the past, but not now? How might she start again? Her question buzzed in my head with the special energy that tells me I've stumbled onto something important. Finally, I connected that conversation with what I'd noticed about people's accounts of their before and after transformations, and it struck me. To understand how people are able to change, I must understand habits. I felt the sense of joyous anticipation and relief that I feel every time I get the idea for my next book. It was obvious. Habits.